welcome back to Mindful Rest. So I wanted to do a video on moving from the kind of shadow or the darkness. I use that word in inverted commas because there's not really good or bad or really positive or negative, but everything can be used for our growth and our evolution. So, but moving as we are in the seasons from the darkness to the light, how can we make the most of the lessons that we need to learn and the growth that we need to make from our shadowy parts, all the parts of our lives that are really tricky and challenging, and how can we learn and grow from those and then move towards greater evolution, greater states of consciousness, greater levels of understanding within ourselves and in our lives. So we'll begin by using some archetype cards. You've probably seen these before. These are by Caroline Myss. She's got a lovely book called, I think it's called Sacred Contracts, and I read that when I was young. And I love these cards. I use them all the time actually, and they represent all the parts of our psyche, and we all have all of these apparently in our psyche, but some are a bit more pronounced than others. So I'm just gonna give them a shuffle. There's all sorts of different ones, there's lots of them, and they've all got a light attribute and a shadow attribute, which is cool. So let's just shuffle them up, and then I'm going to see whether you resonate with any of them, and then see the meaning behind these cards. So we'll just pick 3, otherwise we will literally be here all day. So let's spread them out. So the first one is guide. Can you see that? Hopefully you can. So I'll read it out to you. So the light attribute of guide represents the nature of the divine in life and in yourself. So that's what I was saying about, not just internally in ourselves, but also in our wider life, what's happening, our circumstances we find ourselves in, the conditioning that happened to us, that we experienced. So the divine, how do you experience the divine in yourself internally? And for me, it's that beautiful heart kind of expansion, the peace that's there naturally, the joy, the love, the happiness that's there. And that doesn't mean that we don't feel, that we don't experience pain, because some things happen in life that are not in alignment with our preferences, right? That's always going to happen. The flow of life is sometimes pleasure, sometimes pain. And so a definition of happiness could be, rather than everything going the way that I want it to all the time, that's just not going to happen, is it? Because obviously in this life, as a human being, we are subject, and everybody else is subject to disease and death. So even if nothing bad happened to you, which doesn't really happen either because we're exposed to traumas in our lifetimes, but even if nothing happened like that, you're still going to experience probably disease, definitely death of yourself or a loved one. So of course being human involves some pain. So happiness doesn't necessarily mean no pain in the flow of life. It just means that we have peace, we can have peace of mind in the face of difficult circumstances and pain that happens to us. And the shadow attribute places financial gain and control over imparting spiritual insight. Interesting. So that can be like the shadowy downside of teachers, gurus, practitioners putting finances and not being very moral. Like, we all hear stories about people who have overstepped the mark, crossed the boundaries, and then if students have given away their power, and they're not maybe thinking very clearly and discerning who is just morally kind of in alignment with the truth as well. So how is someone behaving? Do they exhibit kindness? Do they have compassion? Or do they use a lot of spiritual jargon to cover up or manipulate? So be discerning about who you listen to and who you give your power away to. Like, just don't. You're the most powerful. You're the most powerful kind of person who will discern what's right for you, what's true. There's an inner kind of guru that will let you know, if you listen to it, what is true, what is not true, what is good for you, what is not good for you. And we all have quite a good radar, I think, for BS. So listen to that. Child nature is the second card, which is a lovely one. It's one of my favourites. So the light attribute, friendships with animals and communication with nature spirits. Wow. I don't think I've ever communicated with nature spirits, but I certainly have found a lot of healing in nature itself. And actually you can connect with anything through the heart, through the spiritual heart. You can connect with anything, so whether that's a tree, an animal, a spiritual being. We're all spiritual beings, but I mean in the spiritual realm. And it can be incredibly healing. And one thing I was told many years ago about connecting with trees and things like that is about respecting their boundaries. So I like a hug from a tree. I do, without being too much of a cliche. I just was told, I don't even know who told me ages ago, I think it was a meditation teacher, about just inwardly asking permission to do that. And yeah, I just always have remembered to do that. And the shadow attribute of nature child is the tendency to abuse animals, people and the environment. Oh, yeah, we don't want abuse of anything, or certainly not people, animals, and we are, as I guess as a species, abusing the planet. So that's really, things are getting better, but really slowly. I keep remembering that. I don't know if anyone's watched the Ramesh Ranganathan sketch on his live show, and he says, I really wish I could do more about the environment, but I can't be bothered to wash a yogurt pot up. And it's like, okay, we've all been there. Like, let's make more effort. We're just visitors here. But I think things are gradually moving in the right direction. I just don't know if we're too late or not. tendency to abuse animals. I'm really hoping nobody does that. Obviously, that's not great. Pets are so sacred, and service to humans and animals is really develops one's heart and openness, and we can serve animals, the environment and human beings however you choose to do that, and there's a bunny rabbit on that picture that I have, a bunny rabbit, a house bunny. And we do tend to abuse people, don't we? Not even, I don't know if abuse is the right word, but we tend to take things out on people when we haven't really worked through our own stuff, our own shadows, our own wounds. We don't need to shame ourselves for those wounds, because we all carry wounds. And I guess some people kind of come along and press those buttons, and then we can be very, very reactive. But if you work through them, it's so important, I think, to see a therapist and work through our stuff, our conditioning that wasn't our fault, but is there nonetheless. It's the cards we get dealt to deal with and to grow from, and look at the wider picture. Like, what am I learning from this? Is if you had a very authoritative or kind of cold parent, then what is it that the lesson there is to learn? Is it that we can learn compassion for others, greater compassion and warmth and kindness? Maybe that's the lesson that we're here to learn. They're not easy, the lessons that we have to learn in this on this planet. There can be it's a really difficult school. So having some people around you who support you and who get where you're coming from, who kind of like-minded and who are interested in spirituality and growth and evolution and learning and self-understanding and development, that can be really, really useful. Otherwise it's a little bit of a lonely or a lonesome path sometimes. The third card is Healer. Passion to serve others by repairing the body, mind and spirit. Ability to help transform pain into healing. Well, I'm guessing a lot of you guys are healers as well, but obviously this card is quite applicable to me. I am a therapist, and I've always done this. I've always had this interest in healing and the metaphysical, I guess, from a very young age. When I was a child, I was saving animals and insects and things. So yeah, I always kind of was interested in it. And what's the shadow attribute? Taking advantage of those who need help, failing to care for oneself. Taking advantage. So really, again, it's that moral standing, isn't it? Like, we need to have good morals and values, and be aware of our shadow, so that we don't fall prey to it and others don't fall prey to it. And looking after ourselves. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the year. Who is not burnt out? Like, have you taken enough breaks? Do you reward yourself? Like, when you have an accomplishment or an achievement, do you even recognise, acknowledge your achievements? And I think on the spiritual path, people are so anti like any kind of pride, but actually, there's such thing as a healthy kind of pride, and which you outgrow anyway over time. But if it's a choice between shaming and blaming yourself and living in that state of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm just not enough, full stop, compared to actually I'm kind of proud of the progress I've made and the shifts that have happened, although we know on a deeper level that's grace, but also we are making some effort, right? We're meditating, we're reading the books, we're watching the videos, we're trying to put some effort in to create change in our lives. So if it's the difference between kind of recognizing and healthy pride versus deep shame, oh my gosh, I know what I would choose. And yes, besides that, we can kind of just naturally grow out of it, but it's like you wouldn't tell a teenager, that was a stupid stage to be in. Like, why did you become a teenager? Like, it's just a stage of development, and we naturally move past that. So let's look at the actual book, what the book says. So I might have just been babbling on. So what do we have? Guide first. This is the little book it comes with, which is cool. And it just kind of interprets the cards for you. So guide is a little bit more in depth. So guide in brackets: guru, sage, crone, wise woman, spiritual master, evangelist, preacher. Teacher of religious beliefs and practices, as well as the spiritual principle of seeing the divine in every aspect of life. You don't have to be a professional preacher or guru to have this archetype. Crone, wise woman and sage represent the ripening of insight and acceptance of what is. Shadow guide manifests in I can't even read that. Oh my god, I can't read it. Basically, evangelists gone wrong. Gurus and priests who place financial gain and sexual gratification over imparting spiritual insight. Yeah, just be really wary about how you're spending your time, who you're giving your energy to, who you're gaining or gleaming wisdom from. Look for a continuing pattern of guiding others based on your own spiritual insights. And healer is right next to guide in this book. So it could be wounded healer, caregiver, nurse, therapist. There's a lot of wounded healers, and quite frankly, I would rather sit next to somebody who's had some experience in life, experienced some trials and tribulations, and has grown from that and become more open-hearted and compassionate and kind and caring through those. At a dinner party, I'd much rather sit next to somebody who has a story than somebody who, I'm not going to say something really judgmental, but I really enjoy the company of people who have just experienced stuff in their life, and you see how that has shaped somebody the better. And it's not an easy path, the wounded healer. And so it manifests as a passion to serve others by repairing mind, body and spirit. Repairing, I don't know if I like that word, repairing, because that suggests something's broken. I guess as a therapist, I don't really see that people are broken. I don't see that people need fixing either. I believe everyone has the inherent capacity within themselves to heal and to allow these layers of conditioning to come to the surface. While they're not being repressed anymore, they'll naturally come to the surface, and they'll naturally be processed and worked through, whether that's energetically in the form of crying or shaking or whatever it is, or kind of intellectually telling your story. Telling your story is really important, and actually processing what's happened, what we've been through, and having someone witness that in a deep presence is so healing. inherent strength and ability to assist people in transforming their pain into a healing process. That's what I was saying, and to channel the energy needed to generate physical and emotional changes. Look beyond the obvious definition of what you do professionally to a continual pattern of trying to heal others. So I guess that can be maybe interlinked with rescuing people, which does have a shadowy side to it, the rescuer, because it implies that the person needs rescuing, that they're lower in whatever you want to say, they're lower in understanding or vibration or whatever, but that's not necessarily true. I don't really feel like that at all. In fact, it's the other way around. I actually see that most people that I work with are healing themselves. I just maybe ask the right questions or guide them in a certain way that to elicit that natural healing capacity. So it's actually nothing to do with the therapist, really. There's so much innate wisdom in the body, and there's such a force that's pushing us in the direction of growth and healing anyway, and that's life. Life is benevolent. It's going to move you in the direction of healing and growth, regardless of whether or not you see a healer. I guess a healer or therapist or someone like that, a practitioner, can just help speed up the process of it. And what was the last card? Child Nature. I hope some of these you identify with, or that speak to you as well. I know they kind of like all speak to me. Why can't I find it? Oh, it's because it's under C, that's why. Child Nature inspires intimate bonding with natural forces, shows affinity for friendships and animals. Friendships with animals, has inner toughness and ability to survive. I think surviving and being on the spiritual path through suffering kind of like goes hand in hand with surviving, doesn't it? Surviving, moving past and growing from tumultuous circumstances. There's even so much growth and healing that can come from deep depression as well. Resting, and it tells you that something's not okay, something is out of alignment, something's not okay for you, and something needs to shift in your life, in the way that people treat you, and I guess coming into power. Like when people feel anger, it's just a little easier to create change from that place of like more energy, whereas depression can really keep people so stuck, and it's so painful to be in that place. But again, if you are, then you can't, just don't shame yourself about it. It is, you are where you are, but do what you can, speak to who you can, because there could be some changes that would help you. There could be some input from other people that would help you to, if it's to tell your story or to get out of a situation that you're in that's contributing to the deep depression. But much love to you if you are in that state. Shadow. So we talked about the shadow being a tendency to abuse. So being important to work through our stuff. We don't want to be abusing people intentionally or unintentionally if we can help it. So let's get some support moving towards the light from our shadows and from the difficult circumstances that are here to be lessons for us. Let's either make the most of those, let them go, move through them if we can. If it's not our time to move through them, then let's try and grow from them and learn as much as possible and keep the momentum going so that we are moving towards that greater state of consciousness and learning what we have to. So let's do a little bit of healing around moving forwards from the shadow and these difficult circumstances that we all experience in our lives. With gratitude, we appreciate the lessons that we're here to learn and how they contribute to our growth and our soul's growth on this school, Earth School. So that's a lovely, can you feel that flow already coming through? Very warming and gentle and comforting. So well done everyone for getting to the end of the year. It's been another interesting year, hasn't it? We've lost some valued people. And let's get some healing from all the heartache we've been through this year, personally, globally. And we're still coming out the other side of the pandemic still. So I'm seeing a lot in my practice of like delayed kind of wounds and emotional and psychological difficulties that people experienced during the pandemic. Just allowing ourselves to receive some beautiful healing, moving us towards greater clarity, love and ease in our lives. And just asking internally for help with and support with letting go of anything now, moving past certain challenges that you may have internally, in your mind, your body, or in your life at the moment. Moving through those towards a place of ease, peacefulness, clarity, healing. Can bring in the Moonstone to help us with these gentle feminine comfort and easing, balancing emotions. Developing our intuition so we can have greater insight and trust our judgment, our gut. Make decisions and choices that are right for us. Listen and hold on to people who are good for us and discern those who are not so good for us. Letting go any expectation that I should still see this person, or I should still do this or engage with this. And growing in confidence, ready for the new year. Moving towards greater abundance, joy, peace and happiness in your life. I hope everyone is having a little bit of relaxation from work, a bit of rest time, time to come back to yourself, come back to your centre, and take stock of the year, take stock of all your needs, your experiences, your emotions, where you're at, and just resting, being with yourself, being with your true nature. And as we give, we're so used to giving our energy going out, just to bring it all back and come back to rest in your being. Okay, well, hopefully I'll be back soon. But if I don't see you before Christmas, have a lovely time. And my heart goes out and my thoughts go out to all of those people who this time of year is challenging for various reasons, whether that's dynamics in the family, whether you are alone. We all support you and honour the challenging circumstances that you are experiencing. So, blessings to all of you and much love.